Awesome, awesome. So again, a very warm welcome to the May session of the Spencer 2023 webinar series. What is Spencer? We are a nonprofit organization that supports students who wish to pursue careers within this industry, risk management, insurance, actuarial science. And we do so through various programs such as scholarships. We have some 2023 Spencer scholars with us here today that receive these scholarships. We have internship grants. We have two beneficiaries of those internship grants that are here with us today as well, some risk management interns. We have general grants for universities and other nonprofit organizations. We do curriculum development at universities, and we have several other experiential learning opportunities for college students. So we do have some awesome guest speakers that are here with us today. We have Venetia Poole, and we also have Julia Birdzik. Did I pronounce that correctly? Awesome. So Venetia is going to be our main guest speaker that's here today. We're going to have a crash course, if you will, a 101 on marine insurance. And then Julia is going to link up with us towards the end of the session as she is a recent graduate and a Spencer Scholar. So she is going to talk about her experience and what that was like transitioning from being a college student to being a working professional that is working at Marsh. So Venetia, I will hand it over to you if you'd like to share your screen, and please also tell us a little bit more about yourself as well.
But I've been with Marsh & McLennan Companies for 36 years now, and I've spent the last 16 years of my career with the Marine and Energy Group, and I work primarily on the Marine Group. So I have enjoyed working. It's a very interesting line of coverage. And before as I share my screen, I'll just give it's a high-level overview. And because it was started in London, I decided not to try to fake a British accent.
No British accent for us today, no?
But, you know, in the spirit of the coronation, I wanted to just kind of join in. And I wasn't nervous until I saw the senior people on the call. So I'm a little nervous now. But anyway, I'll go ahead and share my screen so that you guys can begin to see.
Perfect. We can see it.
Okay, great. So my name is Venetia Poole. So the history overview, of course, marine insurance is the oldest branch of insurance historically. It started by Lloyd's of London. You've heard of that maybe or maybe not, but it initially was started to insure shipments that went via vessel. And they would make deals literally on napkins and pieces of paper. And because of the way the British law was, you know, they had pretty much like gentlemen's agreements that, you know, bound them, and, you know, they were binding, and they still do a lot of things. It's changed now, but it used to be over the past 20 years or so, they still would kind of do stuff with a handshake. But now, obviously, in the litigious world that we live in, everything is done, you know, in writing. But we'll do a history overview. We'll go into inland marine, ocean marine, and then we give an insurance overview and talk about the organization. Again, the Phoenicians actually were known to have insured their marine risk as early as 1000 BC. And the way we know it, again, is from England, and it started about in the 1600s in coffee shops. And today, much of the world's commerce market is insured through the marine market. And if you think about it, anything that you buy or clothing or whatever, somehow the marine insurance market touches it, because it has to be shipped from a manufacturer, either by boat or plane or truck or train, you know, or train. it goes from the factories to the warehouses, and then from the warehouses to the retail stores, and all of that falls under the marine program. So the categories are inland categories, which you have domestic shipments, which means that these are shipments that originate and terminate, or they begin and end within the United States. And pretty much that's the 48 contiguous states on the map. If it has to go like to Hawaii or even Alaska, they're not considered. Those two states are not considered contiguous. The instruments, there are instrumentalities of transportation and communication. And these are filed and non-filed. They can be through, large insurers or small insurers. And the property categories excluded typically are jewelry, furs, musical instruments, money, securities, and coins. And that's because they're very difficult. The values are very difficult to ascertain, especially coins. The valuation of expensive coins can fluctuate. So that's very difficult to, if you're having a bulk shipment, it's very difficult to, insure those. Commercial property excluded from property policies are mobile equipment, builders' risks, properties in the custody of bailees, live animals, property at exhibitions, and EDP, which is electronic equipment. These are pretty much covered under the marine easily, because our policies are more flexible and are less stringent as the property. They're pretty much manuscripted for each type of shipment that needs to be covered. So the ocean categories are ocean cargo, hull and machinery, protection and indemnity, and marine liabilities. The first is first party property, and this is cargo, inventory, hull and machinery. So cargo are the goods and equipment that are shipped that in its first party is paid not as a liability, but a person would collect whoever owns the property or whoever is responsible for the shipment. If a claim occurred, they would receive the money. Sort of like a building, like if on a property policy, if you have a building owner and the building is damaged, that is paid to the building owner. And it's the same with cargo. Inventory is the same. Our policies will extend to goods that are stored in warehouses on a temporary basis, not on a permanent basis, but on a temporary basis, because marine, if you think about marine, it covers things that are in transit from warehouse to warehouse, or from warehouse to customer, or from a supplier to a manufacturer. So that's the inventory aspect of it. Hull and machinery.
I
Sure.
have a question. Yeah.
Sure.
And
Thank
if you guys have questions, feel free
please
jump
break in.
Yeah, feel free to raise your hand, or you could always use the features, within the Zoom to just click on it to raise your hand, and we would love to answer your questions. But in terms of like the inventory, you mentioned like with marine, it has to be in transit. So, you're not really covering inventory that's just sitting, in warehouses. But is there a time limit on that? Like, is the inventory sitting there for a week or 2 weeks, or, when would it fall under this policy?
Typically, there is no time limit on the policy for when it is stored, but it's got to be it can't be when it's inventory. It means it's there to be sold or to be processed, but it can't be books on a shelf in a library.
Gotcha.
It would have to, the intent and the purpose for the inventory is that it will be moved. And our policy, the marine policy, does not provide it does not provide business interruption coverage.
Gotcha.
So you have to value it. For example, if it's Nike sneakers and they're in the warehouse temporarily to be shipped to a retail store, you have to build in the profit. So instead of it being a manufacturer's cost to manufacture, say, a pair of sneakers would to be manufactured would only cost $30, but they're going to be sold at $150. When you insure them, you have to insure them for $150 so that if the warehouse is damaged, you'll collect your $150 in the loss.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. And hull and machinery coverage is the actual boats, the whole big vessels, the ones that you see, and we'll have some pictures of them. Some are small. It goes from anything from a work skiff, a little boat that takes equipment around, to a big, huge cruise ship. But that is the first party coverage. So anytime a loss occurs, then it would either be cargo, inventory, or hull. The third party is protection and indemnity. We'll show you a slide on that. Marine liabilities. These are third party liabilities like general liability, excess marine liabilities, motor truck cargo, and warehouseman's legal. Okay, so the scope, first party coverage, again, is for goods and merchandise during the course of international transit. Usually all risk coverage extends to include strikes, riots, civil commotions, and war. It does include that to a degree. If, war cannot be covered overall because it's catastrophic, but it will cover some shipments on international transits. Does that make sense? I want to make sure I'm clear on that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
the exposure is loss or damage to goods and freight. Freight is the cost to ship the goods and damage, the goods that are being shipped. And customer satisfaction and goodwill. We have to make sure our clients are satisfied with, the coverage that we provide. The first party usually the first party coverages apply to damage to the vessel and the vessel's equipment. So this is a big tanker ship that probably has oil and or other liquids within this portion and within the hull of the vessel. And the types of vessels include commercial, blue water. Blue water are shipments that go from the US to China or in the ocean. Brown water is coastal, Gulf of Mexico, and like the coastal areas of the in California or whatever. That's called brown water. And then you have bulk or containers, you have barges, cruise ships, ferries, and under our personal lines coverage would be yachts and other little small vessels. This is a tanker. This is not a tanker. This is a container vessel, and it looks like it's run aground. And this happens quite frequently. Bad weather will do that, and all of these containers have cargo inside of them, so they fall off. And if they fall over the side, then that's a loss. So person who is shipping or company that's shipping something would have a portion. They would share a portion in that loss. But this happened in 2002 in Greece. This is fun. This is a collision, and this again would be covered under the hull policy. It would cover the damage. Probably in most instances, whoever is found liable for this would have to pay for this one, for the other vessel that they've collided with. Just like in your car, if you hit me and you're found at fault, your insurance would have to pay for my car. Protection and indemnity, this is just the broadest coverage ever in the world. This was probably thought up in London years ago before we had all these other things, but it's basically designed to cover damage to other vessels, the cargo of other, so if the vessel that ran into the others damaged the cargo from other people, it would pay for that. It would pay for freight. And this one is different in that it also covers, it kind of almost has a workers' comp component on it. It covers the crew. It covers the stevedores. These are people that are on land that go on and off the vessel loading these, the different things. It also will pay for a dock or a terminal. If my boat runs into a dock or a terminal, it would pay for that. And it would also pay if we damage a bridge. Marine liabilities are similar. I don't know how much insurance training knowledge you have, but marine liabilities are similar to the general liability policies, and it just covers third parties, and it doesn't provide coverage to crew or people. It just covers the if my vessel or my operation does damage to port authority. Well, it includes the coverage for port authorities. These are like Savannah Port Authority, terminal operators. If I own a terminal and I could provide, it would provide coverage for that. It would provide coverage for the operations of stevedores and people who load and unload the vessels. Shipbuilders, it provides coverage for shipbuilders, vessel water pollution, freight forwarders, steamship agents, marina operators. And then there's also excess. We have to, like, typically most companies will only provide 5 million primary. And then if a company needs 100 million, they'd have to buy excess coverage to get up to the limit of whatever their business contracts will require.
Right. And I think that was a good question that you asked earlier. You mentioned that you're not sure, how much training folks have had in the room. So perhaps if you guys wanted to like raise your hand, like, is this the very first time you guys are hearing about marine insurance and like, this level of detail? Like, raise your hand if it's your first time going into this much detail. Okay, fantastic. Oh, there you go. Okay. There you go. There's a note. So this is all brand new information for them. Yeah.
And this is a lot to take in if you haven't heard, if you don't have any experience, but it's it is a type of insurance, and people, it's important. We don't realize how much we rely on marine insurance, because if I'm a company, a manufacturer, and I have to ship my goods, if something happens at the port, or if something happens with the terminal that the goods are damaged, then we could, I could lose my business, or I could lose income because my goods are not going to where they need to go.
Right.
So the types of companies that you can buy protection and indemnity is that you can go to mutual clubs, and these are primarily, there are a few in the United States, but they're primarily in Europe, Norway, and in England. There are open markets. We have, like, American markets will write P&I, but on a more limited basis. Most of your cruise ships and the huge vessels are covered in the Norwegian mutual clubs. And the forms are manuscripted. They're not standard forms like an automobile policy or a homeowner's policy. These are broad because of the nature of the risk. I mean, you can have it could be a war, there could be a war, or heavy winds, or high seas. So the policies are very broad and written on a manuscript basis. That means that they're sort of built from the ground up. And there are some standards, but for the most part, they're built from the ground up. And then marine liabilities, primary and excess. This is like the marine, this is like the general liability. You can buy coverage in the US pretty easily. There are coverages in London. Many of your huge major companies have portions, if not all, portions of their liabilities and excess liabilities in the London market through Lloyd's markets. And then there are our industry policy forms along with our, and I'm speaking on behalf of Marsh, but it would be the same with Aon and Willis and any of our competitors. They have manuscript forms that we can use with the industry policy forms. And here is this is a nasty one. Thankfully, there were no fatalities on this one, but this is really nasty. So everybody that had goods on this portion of the vessel, and most likely the vessel sank, because when you have that kind of a that type of a catastrophe, it's pretty bad to the ship because it can only take so much. This is pollution liability issues. And of course, you guys are too young to know about the Exxon Valdez, but a lot of your oil tankers, sometimes they'll run aground, and not only will the vessel be damaged, but it'll leak pollution throughout the water. And you've seen the little animals, the little ducks and birds and fish that get killed. So somebody has to pay for that. So we have oil pollution liability coverages that can be covered. And this is from the Costco. There were 58,000 gallons of oil that was spilled with an estimated cost of over 100 million. So these are not cheap. And then this is our practice. And again, our department provides insurance for goods in the ocean, air, and inland transit and storage, which we talked about, the inventory. The hull provides physical damage coverage for the vessel that I own, and it also provides collision coverage if I hit someone else. And the liability provides for physical damage coverage to a third party while operating a vessel or transporting cargo and transporting cargo. And that's it. I hope I haven't overwhelmed you and you'd be like, I don't know what she said. do we have any questions?
Yeah, feel free to ask questions. You know,
Yeah, please don't
understanding
be
it may be
afraid
a
to.
bit much if this is, you know, your first time hearing about marine insurance. Any questions for Venetia? Nope. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for that, Venetia. Thank you for giving us that marine insurance.
Actually, I have
Oh,
a
please.
question. I just
Okay,
wanted to
good.
the
Please
button
go for
thingy.
it.
Okay, so the question that I have, I know you mentioned something about having pollution liabilities. So in those cases, how do you determine what the liability amount is when it comes to pollution?
Typically, it's cleanup, what it costs to clean up. You know, there are other factors. A lot of times, there are other vessels that could be in the water that, you know, oil or whatever they lose, whatever chemical that's released. We have a lot of clients that ship nasty chemicals that caustic again. So it just, and then there are certain governmental, this policy also provides, and I'm giving you a little bit too much information, but it also provides coverage for fines and penalties. It'll cover a portion of the fines and penalties, because if you're found negligent for a chemical spill, then the government can fine you. So there are a lot of things, but the cost is determined. The cleanup is primarily what is used as the basis for what the cost of a pollution spill is.
Thank you.
Question. Awesome.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Any
good
other
question.
questions that are out there? Yes,
Okay,
please,
Frank.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, for people who are kind of new in insurance and just the average layperson, they might be surprised that, like, if they have an engagement ring or something, there's a good chance they have inland marine insurance. Because when you go buy your auto and homeowners, you get asked, do you have any Rolexes or engagement rings or something? That's usually covered by inland marine, right?
Yes. Yeah. And some of the Marines, this was a very general overview. We can ensure that. We have a special unit that's primarily out of London called Specie that specializes in insuring cash, bullion, because I mean, people ship things all the time, but just in the standard marine market, on a commercial basis, you know, we don't do jewelry, furs, and that type of thing, because our primary coverage is just cargo, moving goods such as, you know, commodities and different things. So there is a market in the inland marine group for those types of things, but it's primarily not handled in the general marine market. We also have, under inland marine, we also insure certain types of buildings in the process of being built. That's called builder's risk. And it graduates, you know, as the building goes to completion, you know, what we pay out would increase because of the value of the building, and it's built into the rating. So yeah, inland marine is very, very flexible. Again, it's manuscripted because, you know, it's tailored to the needs of the buyer or whoever buys the insurance.
Right. It's not a one size fits all approach.
No. Frank, did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other questions? Inland marine related questions for Venetia?
Well, I just want to congratulate you all. If you don't have any questions, I'm really proud. Hopefully you will find something in the field. For 36 years, it was kind of good to me. And, you know, I'm just really happy to have had this experience. And I've worked in the other areas too. I've worked in property, casualty, and I haven't done aviation or some of the other specialties. But the good thing about the specialties is that it is a niche market, and I would encourage you to look into it because it is a niche. It gives you an opportunity to specialize, and you know, you just never know how it could advance or which direction you can go.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. You know, because I think you're absolutely right. You know, a lot of the times we hear about, you know, the property and, you know, casualty and some of these larger ones. But thank you for highlighting that, you know, that you all can literally specialize, you know, in some of these coverage lines like marine insurance, aviation insurance. There's entertainment, you know, insurance as well. That's very niche, and you could literally build your whole career around these coverage lines. So thank you for sharing that. Awesome, awesome. So let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to go over to Julia, who is a Spencer Scholar, which means she received a Spencer Scholarship while she was a college student, and she's been working for about 1.5 years, you know. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Julia. Like, where are you located? And then tell us a little bit about like college, you know, where did you go to school? What was your major, and what types of activities and experiences did you have while you were in college, including internships?
Yeah, of course. So to start off, as you might have heard, I work at Marsh, and I'm technically called a senior account representative. However, I'm doing more of the track rotational period, which means I get to try a bunch of different areas for about a period of 3 to 6 months. So far I've done corporate segment, I've done healthcare, I just came out of a sales rotation a couple months ago, and I'm currently in property. So you get exposed to a little bit of everything, which is really nice. But to draw back to my college experience, originally I'm from the New Jersey area. And I went to school at St. Joseph's University and graduated with a risk management and insurance degree. And as Frank emphasized, it's great to get designations. When I graduated St. Joe's, I had my CPCU, ARM, and AIDA done. So it's always great to get those done while you're in school, because you'll definitely have less time when you're working. But, my college experience, I really enjoyed it. Great RMI program. And as you may have heard, there's something called Gamma Iota Sigma, which is the insurance and risk management fraternity. I helped run it at my school, so I had a great time doing that. I got to network with a lot of people who are also in the industry, and it opened a lot more doors for me. But I would definitely say aligning yourself with your professors or even other people in your major is a great way to get ahead in your career, because you never know how people are going to play out, and you may end up at one company and then you may have a friend at another, and eventually you may end up working together just because of that connection. So highly recommend taking full advantage of all the opportunities and people you'll meet in college. But now I work in Miami out of the Marsh office down there, which is sort of a newer office. We're establishing ourselves so far. It's not as established as New York or Atlanta or some of the other major cities, but it's a crazy time right now. We're bringing in a lot of business because, again, it's a new hub, and it's a really cool and exciting time to be there. But I'm definitely up to answer any questions you had about my college experience or current work experience.
Fantastic. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I have a question. I know you mentioned that you were part of Gamma Iota Sigma, and I was also part of Gamma Iota Sigma at the University of South Florida. We're just kind of like starting off, and we're starting to grow. And kind of what I was wondering was, how did you guys go about maybe like recruiting people for Gamma Iota Sigma, and just kind of getting more people involved and exposing more students to the risk management world?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we were kind of on the same page. But the one upside is I know USF is a much bigger school than St. Joe's. So that means there's a lot more opportunity to get the word out and to get a lot more members. So that's cool and exciting. But we went to a very small school, so we had to work very hard, especially how we would market it to new students. What we'd like to do is we would be at career fairs, we would be at the club fairs. We would talk with some of the professors and ask if we could come into one of their classes and just talk about it for 10 to 15 minutes. Highly recommend that, especially for business introductory courses, like accounting 101, or, if you got like a management class. I'm pretty sure the business professors would be okay with that, because it is a business related organization and it's a great way to get involved. And I guess, as simple as it is, word of mouth, just spread the word about it, reach out to I think they call it like the main chapter, the HQ chapter, ask them if they can maybe come down to your campus or do a Zoom and discuss the chapter, maybe with potential new members. You can send them the link, or, if they're willing to come down, you could set up, like a physical meeting at a classroom and just really see what you can get out of it. I mean, again, it's very hard getting it started, but once you get it started, it's so much easier when you just get a lot of people backing it.
Thank you, Julia. That was very useful.
Yeah, of course.
That's fantastic. Great advice, great tips. Any other questions for Julia? And if not, I have questions. Yes, Mimi, please go for it.
Hi, it's very nice to meet you, and I want to congratulate you for being a Spencer Scholar a few years ago. That's a great accomplishment. I wanted to ask, because my city is pretty small, which is Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Virginia. I might have to relocate to bigger cities like Atlanta, Georgia, or Bloomington, Illinois. I keep hearing that the traffic is terrible there. I wanted to ask, how do you adapt to a new situation if you have to go through it?
Yeah, of course. And first, I'd also like to congratulate everyone on this call for being Spencer Scholars as well. It's a great accomplishment, great organization, and it's a great way to, boost your educational aspirations. But on that point, as far as adjusting to new cities, because I came out of New Jersey to Miami, I mean, it is a little tricky at first, I'm not going to lie, but it helps a lot more to probably be in like a metropolitan area, metropolis, just because there's a lot more people, there's a lot more activities going on, there's just a lot more areas you can visit, and you're just constantly surrounded by people. So you're more likely to be able to meet people just like randomly at restaurants, bars. I know there's, I don't really use Facebook, but I know there's Facebook groups and there's apps where you can meet people where you just want to hang out. I think there's something called Meetup where you could see what the community is like and what kind of activities they offer, because depending on the area you go to, some areas may like different things. Like Miami, you may have dragon boating. That would never be offered in New York City unless anyone wants to take a dip in the Hudson, but I doubt it. But you have to kind of acclimate to your surroundings, and it does take a little bit to figure out what you like and what you don't like, but I highly recommend maybe on a long weekend or a weekend checking out the areas you're interested in and getting a feel of the city and trying to envision if you could see yourself there in a few years or, working there. But again, always follow where you think there will be a lot of opportunity, where there's room for growth and improvement. Just do what's best for you at the end of the day, because that's the most important thing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you.
Yeah,
Any other
if you come to Atlanta, you have to get used to the traffic.
That's right.
Yeah, traffic, yeah.
I was like, you can't escape it. You can't avoid Atlanta traffic. Awesome. So maybe tell us a little bit about your transition, Julia. So once you were, transitioning from a college student to becoming a, full-time young working professional, what was that like for you? Like, what were those, first 6 months or first year of employment like for you?
I will be honest, it is definitely a bit trickier to navigate than college, only because when you go to college, you sit down, you go to classes, you kind of get used to that groove. So it takes a bit to break free of, oh, I'm not going to really be taught everything. And you're just kind of figuring it out and making mistakes and, relearning, then eventually getting it down. So there's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations, and that's okay. It's just going to be like that starting out, unfortunately. But once you get into your groove, I'm not fully there yet, so don't be concerned if it's not hitting right away. I'm not even fully there yet. I'm sure it'll come in time, but just be confident in yourself and your abilities, and don't be really hard on yourself, because that's probably the worst thing you could do, and that will only hinder your growth.
Absolutely. Fantastic advice. And then for anyone here that might be wondering how you actually got the job at Marsh, like tell us a little bit about that. What was the application process like, the interview process? How did you actually get the job that you have now?
So this is an interesting story, actually, because I wouldn't say it was really a formalized process, but what ended up happening was I interned with Aon over the summer of 2021. So that was going into my senior year. And I knew they were going to offer me a job, but the thing was I didn't want to work out of Philadelphia or New York. I wanted to kind of try something new and maybe go to Miami or Tampa. And they weren't really getting back to me right away if they could give me that location. And after about a month, I was very rigorous on following up and asking, do you know if I could go there for that location? And they still couldn't give me a straightforward answer. I knew I'd get an offer, but they just couldn't give me an answer on the location. Through some fortunate circumstance, my mom recently it was in September of 2021, had lunch with someone that worked at Marsh in the healthcare section. And she was asking about me. She said, does your daughter know where she wants to work yet? And my mom's like, no, but she's, definitely open to whatever, but she doesn't want to work in Philadelphia. I'm sure she wouldn't mind working for Marsh, but she doesn't want to work in Philadelphia. And this woman actually was kind enough to give me a call that Friday, when that dinner is, I think, on a Wednesday. And we talked a little bit, and she's like, let me see what I could do. Just send me your resume. And I guess through the Marsh internal website, you could see who's linked to the offices. She sent it out. And then the next Monday, I got a call from the executive assistant of the managing director of the office. And then on Tuesday, I thought he just wanted to learn a little bit about me, pretty much gave me the job. And I was like, wow. So it's crazy the way that worked out, but you never know how things work out. It just, I don't know, everything fell in place. It was crazy.
Absolutely. I'm hearing networking, the importance of having connections, people that, are actually working in these locations, in these companies, and, but to your point, in the specific geographical locations as well that you want to move to. So definitely don't underestimate the importance of networking. So that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Yeah, so we do have just a couple more minutes left before we end this session. Any other questions for Julia or Venetia while we have them here? No questions. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So my question is more about kind of what is it like working at Marsh in terms of like, what would you say is your favorite thing about working there?
So what I really like working about Marsh is you just have a lot of colleagues in a lot of different areas. And there's a lot of, I mean, we're the #1 broker, not to toot our own horn or anything, but that doesn't come without something backing it up. So there's just a lot of experience. I mean, Venetia, you said you've been working at Marsh, what, like over 30 years or 26? Yeah.
36.
Wow, 36, exactly. You see, like that's just like a legacy Martian, as we like to call ourselves, but we just have so many resources, so many knowledgeable people. I mean, you can't find that as much at the newer companies. You just find people, you're more likely to find a lot more people at Marsh that start and end their career with Marsh, which I thought was really cool.
And, just to add to that, thank you, Julia, to add to that, there was a lady who left Marsh several years ago, and she came back. And I asked her why she came back. She went to one of our competitors, and she said, it's just there are so many smart people at Marsh, so many cutting edge people that all you have to do is pick up a phone and, find out answers. You don't have to reinvent the wheel each time you have to do something new. They're forward thinking people. And like I said, I know I'm biased, but they are many, many forward thinking people that, they so smart, experts, and they go, they talk to leaders, governmental leadership. They're very well connected. So toot the horn for Marsh.
Great questions. We do have time for more if anyone has questions. Jasmine, Taylor, Anish, want to make sure you guys have a chance to ask as well if you happen to have any questions for Julia or Venetia.
I also wanted to add, those who are doing actuarial, Marsh has an operation. We have a company, Oliver Wyman and Mercer, that you hire actuaries, and they have a really robust training program for those who want to go into actuarial sciences and not insurance. So we're not just one niche area. We have actuarial consulting and so forth. And so we have all kinds of connections if you're interested.
Fantastic. And that's a very good point. Thank you for sharing that. So, when a lot of folks, you're going to hear Marsh, you're going to hear Marsh and McLennan companies, you're going to hear MMC. So the parent company is MMC, Marsh and McLennan companies. And then underneath that, there are 4 sister companies. So you've got Marsh, and which is where the confusion comes in, right? Because the word Marsh is in both the parent company and the sister company, but you have a standalone company called Marsh, and then the sister company is Mercer, Oliver Wyman, and then there's Guy Carpenter as well, which does reinsurance, which is insurance for insurance companies. So, to Venetia's point, under the MMC umbrella, the Marsh McLennan umbrella, you could do anything, right? You could literally do anything. Yes, please. Leonie, go ahead.
Okay, so this is my last question.
Sure.
Does Marsh have any offices in Florida, more specifically in the Tampa area?
Julia, would you like to answer that one?
Yes, we do. We got a main office. Well, our main office is in Miami, but we also have a growing office in the Tampa area. And I know we're looking to expand to create an office in Jacksonville and maybe Orlando. But again, we're still establishing the offices. So that's why, there may be some confusion as to where we're starting it, but we definitely do have an office in Miami and Tampa right now.
And there's an office in Fort Lauderdale as well.
Oh yeah, Sunrise. But I think we're
Right.
closing that one soon.
Oh,
because
really?
Yeah, we just
Oh.
bought 2 floors of the new 830 Brickell building in downtown Miami. So it's pretty nice.
Good
Ooh.
deal.
There you go. Awesome, awesome. And feel free to connect as well. I've been putting various links within the chat, including Venetia's LinkedIn profile and Junia's LinkedIn profile. So definitely take a moment to click on those links, connect with them through LinkedIn. And then that way, if you're interested in careers, right? If you're interested in internship opportunities, entry-level job opportunities within Marsh, I'm sure Venetia and Julia would be more than happy to point you in the right direction in terms of how to actually get employed with this company. So awesome, awesome. So we are right up on time. Thank you so much for this awesome session. Thank you guys for being so engaging and for asking great questions. I've been loving all the comments and feedback and everything going through the chat box. So as you know, and as I mentioned, we do these sessions monthly during the spring and fall semester. And then during the summer semester, we move to a weekly schedule since more students are available. More students are, completing their summer internships and things like that. And so we move it to a weekly schedule where it's easier for you to like hop onto a Zoom call while you're having lunch at your desk and things like that. So next month's session will mark the beginning of our summer series, our Spencer summer series with the webinars. And it's going to be every Thursday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. So our next session is going to be on Thursday, June 15th, and our presenting company is going to be Zurich. So to obtain the Zoom details for all of our sessions, simply register. If you're not quite sure where it is, it's under the resources tab of our website. You can click on that, click on Spencer Webinar Series, and take a look at the full schedule and sign up. So with that, thank you, Venetia, again, and thank you, Julia, for joining us today. And for everyone else, we will catch you next month. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much.
you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.